miss them. I still miss my kids too. But everybody came home for 4th of July. Even because Kate just moved, she graduated in May, and she's already up in Minneapolis, and so she's already established an apartment and everything up there. And my other 2 boys are up in Wisconsin, and then Larry was traveling all the time. But to have everybody home, it was nice just to have.
Now, do you travel
home.
to see them alone, or do you?
Well, actually, I did travel up to Wisconsin 2 weeks ago, and my inch broke off. On it.
How far did you make it? Do it all the way up there?
I was all the way up there. So I was between Beloit and Madison when it happened, because we were on the way to Madison to go see the kids, Lawrence and John, and the car failed, and I'm like, great. So then, but my brother was with me in a different car behind us. He was following us because we were again going to see the guys. And so he took me up to the guys, and then Larry turned around and took the car and went back home. And then he back to his, and then hi, had to call AAA, and then had to have it towed, or got it into the dealer. And then I got stuck up there for 3 days.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I know. Well, they had all the parts.
They were looking for Larry. No, it's Larry. All right.
Yeah.
You've been all the way up there, or you're still?
No, I was all the way up. Well, Larry lives in Beloit and has an apartment in Beloit, and then he took me through Madison. So it's about an hour.
Oh, so you got to stay
Right. I just got to stay a little bit longer. Yeah.
This is your first term. What's that? First term.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's gonna be bad. I mean, it's good for him, but he's a good kid, so it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really hard.
It's gonna be this like an hour.
We ready?
This is just the orientation. So.
Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the July 9th, 2019 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is attendance.
Mr. Kramp,
Present.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Wolf,
Present.
Ms. Evinger,
Present.
Mr. Mundy.
Present.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from the May 14th, 2019 meeting minutes. I would open that for discussion, and I would lead that with, I made a note as I was reviewing the minutes that Ms. Evinger, we had some attendance, so we had you in there, then I made a note that I don't think Julie was here, and so that note made the minutes. So I think what I would suggest is that note should be stricken out from the meeting minutes. Other than that, I'm fine with the way they were presented.
Okay, and I'll abstain from the vote on the minutes since I was not in present.
Perfect. Any other comments about the minutes from the May 14th meeting?
No.
Thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of May 14th, 2019,
Thank you, Steve. Are you amenable to my correction?
with the correction that you've asked for.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is continuance requests. Are any of our petitioners here tonight going to seek a continuance request? Seeing no one jumping up towards the podium, I want to move on. Now we have continued business. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. The first item on our agenda tonight is docket number 2019-14-DSV for 250 North Maple Street. Will the petitioner please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and briefly describe what you are asking for tonight? Sorry, I talk fast.
Sorry. I'm just representing the homeowner. He's out of town for business.
Perfect.
I've done this before, so I'm sorry.
So all I need is your name and address.
My name's Kevin Young. My address is 45 Red Bud Lane.
Perfect, thank you. And you said Kevin?
Yes.
Thank you, Kevin. And what, the petition in front of us, could you please briefly describe what you're asking for?
It's a permission to build a paver patio on the side of his home. It's a permanent paver patio, so there'll be no water shed. It'll kind of go down a drainage system, and some plantings and a pergola
Okay.
outside.
And as I look at this in front of us, Kevin, are you the builder or
Yes.
the proposed? Okay, thank you. Now I understand the relationship. There's also, so we have a couple problems with this petition. I shouldn't say problems, a couple requests here. One is to deviate from the side yard setback, and the other one is total lot coverage, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so what you're proposing is this patio would move the lot coverage to 40.54%,
Yes.
as best our calculations are. And what material are you planning on using for?
It's a concrete paver, but it's permeable, so it has gaps in the center, so it'll actually, the water will drain down through the patio.
Okay. And then have you seen, did receive 2 letters of remonstration from some neighbors. Have you seen any of those?
No.
Okay. So, and they'll certainly have the opportunity to speak. One concern was about drainage, and one concern was about kind of lot coverage and the side yard setback. So kind of both aspects there. Could you briefly discuss how this will drain or how this will affect the drainage of the property?
Yes, the patio itself will actually not have any more watershed or any more drainage problems. I actually spoke with a neighbor to the, I guess it would be the north,
Okay.
and talked to him and told him that we could, because right now his lawn's a little lower than the existing grade, and we can put in a drain system, and the 2 downspouts will be carried out, into the backyard. And I can help him kind of correct that drainage problem in that area as we're doing the grading and everything as well.
So the downspouts that you're referring to, are they on the petitioner's property or the neighbor to the north's property?
The petitioner's property.
Okay.
Right
So-
now, they just dump out, and because there's nothing there now at all, so it's just dirt, so the water's really just kind of taking off and going. with
Yeah,
the
in
plant
theory,
and
it should
the
be absorbed in the
grass.
ground, but what actually happens is it
Exactly.
puddles up, and
And-
so what you're proposing is that potentially those downspouts could be moved, kind of collected into a corrugated pipe and moved.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner's representative?
Just one question. The petition as presented had vertical improvements. I think staff has raised, and we'll probably hear a little bit about it, concerns about those improvements violating the setback. Have you made any adjustments to the site plan?
I did, I
To the
actually
plan.
made the patio smaller, and in 2 different areas, shrunk the size of it, and then the structure has no roof. The pergola doesn't, it's just an open air structure.
How close to the property line will the pergola be?
The pergola will be probably at 18 inches to the property line.
Okay.
And what is the height of the pergola?
It'll be a total of like 9.5 feet, underneath will be 8 feet.
I think staff's recommendation was a further setback, wasn't it?
Correct.
And I'm sorry, so I get my notes right. You said 18 inches off the property line,
Yes,
and it's a timber structure.
yes, it's all cedar.
One of the remonstrators mentioned that it's difficult for, as I look at the property, let's see if I can get my bearings right, south, north, the garage sits on the west of the property, kind of the back of the property.
Yes.
And it's difficult for the homeowner to get from the south of the property, I did that wrong, west of the property to the east of the property, for example, with a trash bin. It doesn't look like your plan includes any sort of walkway from the existing back of the yard through the front of the yard, correct? So
Correct.
it's kind of just an island off to the side of off to the north side of the property.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So this will not address that issue.
No.
Any other questions for the petitioner's representative?
You said you'd set the pergola back there's a greater setback. Is that different than what we have received?
I think it's what shows on the drawing, updated drawings. Originally, I had it closer to the property line, but I pulled everything back away from the property line.
Okay, so,
I think what you have now is what it's gonna be.
So again, you mentioned that it was 18 inches and staff had recommended 5 feet away from the property line.
Correct. That's what the staff report speaks to, yes.
So, did you discuss that with, or did the petitioner discuss that with staff, whether or not it was possible to do the 5 feet? Or-
It's if we did 5 feet off the property, it's only a 10 by like 12 structure now, so it'd literally be a 5-foot little structure at that point. I mean, worst case, we can eliminate the structure if that's a problem.
Your concern that is with a 5-foot structure, if you moved it back, it aesthetically wouldn't look right. It would be kind of a,
Yeah, it kind of honestly be kind of useless at that point.
The purpose of the pergola is purely aesthetics, isn't it?
Well, that and a little shade.
This is on the north side of the house.
Right.
Correct? And there are some bushes or trees on the adjoining property.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure how much shade you'll get from a pergola in that location, but okay.
A little bit, not much.
And Wayne, I want to certainly have the opportunity to hear the staff report in a few minutes, but I do want to, why I have it in my head, your concern, or the town's concern with the location of the pergola was that at a height, it would obstruct and encroach more because it is at height to the neighbor's property. Is that correct?
In part, certainly the town has its ordinances looking to manage the height, bulk, and density of individual structures that are located on a property for a number of reasons. Bulk regulations are specifically designed to deal with fire separation. And the idea that a unrated structure, such as a wood timbered structure, in proximity to a lot line is a little bit more intrusive than a managed structure that is drywalled and is fire rated. So that's one conversation point of separating.
I just want to circle back, and you may not be able to address this, and it's something specific to the petitioner, but with respect to, because we're going to hear from a remonstrator, this trash issue, you're effectively, at least from the plan, looks like you're blocking the north side with the landscaping. There won't be actually any, there's no plan of access to the road from the north side. So as I understand the photos I've seen, that on the south side, there's a air conditioning unit right next to the property, or to the building, and the building's 5 feet off the property line, which is in the setback, or which complies with the setback. Won't that effectively make it impossible for the petitioner to take his trash to the curb without going across the adjoining landowner's property? I think that's what's occurring now.
Well, I could always, I didn't know anything about the trash can situation. So
And I don't know how significant that is, but it was significant enough for somebody to
we could
put it
always
into
leave
a
an
letter.
opening, between the hedge or whatever, or kind of, do a hedge this way and this way, so there's actually an open way to get through there. So that's something that could be done, definitely.
Okay.
And it was Young, correct, Kevin Young? Yeah, I certainly appreciate your position on, you may not have all this information, so I thank you for coming in, and I certainly appreciate that. I do have a question. Are you aware if the actual owner of the property was, did he discuss any of the remonstrator letters that we received?
No,
Okay, so you weren't,
I wouldn't
you
worry.
kind of came in blind to that one?
Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
fair enough.
The drawings show some plantings all along the very north side, but north of the patio, north of the pergola. Are those plantings ones that would be done by the petitioner, or are those on the adjoining property?
It's on the project that we're working on, and everything should fit on his property. They're just the main hedge across their screening where the pergola is. They're just emerald green arborvitae. They don't get very wide or big. And if you look at, I guess it would be to the west, the shrubs there, they're just like hydrangea, things like that.
That's, further,
Towards the backyard.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Young? I don't see any questions.
Okay, all right.
We may have a few more in a minute, but thank you. Are there any remonstrators here tonight to discuss this project? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, my name is Greta Sanderson. I'm at 260 North Maple Street, so we are the homeowners on the north side of the property. And my husband, yes, has spoken with Kevin. He has been very accommodating to hear our concerns about the drainage and the fact that it is directly abutting up against our yard and our landscaping. It's some things that we have recently had done and some things that have been there for a number of years. We've been there for almost 30 years. And some of the significant plantings we were talking about on the side where he's going to put the arborvitae, I think there are some big, some plants there, there's like a 10-foot lilac bush and a few other things there that apparently are over the line, which I understand he can, do with what he wishes. So, that's a concern, is how those are gonna be taken out and what impact that might have that's on our side to get something out that's that big in that tiny space. I think would be a bit of a challenge. My primary concern, though, is the drainage, and I attached some photographs that you could see. I think with some of the recent rain events, which was a 100-year event or a 50-year event, it was just normal Indiana heavy rainfall. There is no designation on the design where the well is there in the back to catch some of that extra, and that structure you see that's behind some of those shrouds is a generator. So there are some water problems already. I know the basement has had water, or they had when they were digging the foundation for the home. They had a natural spring, and obviously it's at the bottom of the hill in the village, so we always have water. That is a concern, and I appreciate that it's, the pervious pavers that should help accommodate some of that. But given that there's already an issue, it seems to me that allowing any additional coverage than what the allowance is for pervious pavers is not called for. The second fact is Kevin has said he can make some accommodations and some adjustments for the grading and the drainage, which we would really welcome. But I would appreciate if, depending on what is ultimately decided, that there is something in writing to guarantee that, because we have had issues with the initial home and what we were told was going to happen, and that wasn't exactly what ended up happening. So I would appreciate if, and the same thing for the pergola setback and those other things, that be put in writing, so that is more of a requirement. And I appreciate the design of it, the aesthetics, but in the village we're very friendly. I often say we can pass a cup of sugar, out one window to the neighbor next door. So I understand that that's what we're there, and that's part of living in the village, which is what we all love. I just feel, especially with the driveway being back there in that concrete slab, which I understand does not count for lot coverage. I'm not quite sure why that is, because it is a whole lot of concrete that is completely impervious, and it's much higher than the alley. It's higher than our grade, and all of that water has to go somewhere. So I appreciate your thoughts. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Sanderson. So I do have a couple questions. Really, what I need help with immediately is, can you orientate me on some of the pictures you provided us?
Sure.
So it looks like I'm looking at a paved area, and then next to it there's some gravel. Is that the alley? Does the gravel represent the alley?
The gravel is alley, so all of them are the back of my yard.
Okay, so
our
this is
garage,
your
but
property.
The last one that you will see that has that well,
Yep.
the dirt pile, that is the area in question.
Okay.
And that's the other driveway, that very last one. I just wanted you to see where that well was and how big that concrete slab is and the grade of what that is that's existing. So you can get a feel for where that water is flowing.
Okay, so that...
I have a video if you want to see.
I love AV8s. Okay, so that concrete slab I'm looking at in that garage, that's your property?
The one covered with water is my property, yes.
Okay.
The last one on that fourth picture, well, maybe they're not in the order.
This is the new property?
The one that's dry is the new property. The ones with water is mine.
Okay, so that well sits between your two properties,
It's in between
catch basin?
the slab and, yes.
Okay, I understand now. Thank you. And then I do have, you made a comment, and I'm going to ask some of my other board members if they have any questions, but I think what I heard you say was you would be more in favor of keeping it in line with what the current zoning ordinance is, and you have some concerns with the drainage. Would you be amendable to, if if this petition included some discussion and written assurances that downspouts were addressed and moved to a different part of the property, as well as maybe some sort of French or perimeter drain around the, would that be amendable to you, or is that not going to address the problem?
I would prefer, there's just nowhere for it to go. We're talking 10 feet. Even if you move it somewhere, where do you move it? The street already floods. You can't put it into the street. The alley's already flooded. Where would you even reroute it to, I guess would be the question.
Yeah, we would certainly need specifics on that. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Mrs. Sanderson?
I have a few. With respect to your photos, the water that's shown, just so I'm clear, this is, in this sort of a rain event before the house was built, to the, that we're talking about that's requested the variance, did you have similar drainage issues, or this is all
We never had
directly
drainage
related?
that went all the way along the back of the yard. We would get a little bit in one corner of our apron, especially as they re-gravel the alley and it gets higher, and my apron does not. So we have had some, but never halfway up my apron and never all the way along our backyard.
Okay, so you're comfortable that the house that as constructed is the cause of the drainage issues that you're
I am.
substantially the cause of the drainage issues that you're seeing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And one other question, because I was, again, just to make sure I understand what I'm looking at.
Sure.
On the photos, I understand that this is the, and I know this isn't going to reflect well in the record. I'm pointing. But I understand that the photo on the top right of the letter that was submitted, that shows the driveway of the property.
The one that's
the
dry. The only
petitioner's
photo that's
property.
dry is the property in question. All the
Okay.
other three that show standing water are my property.
So the very first photo, the top left photo, then, that's looking from behind your property?
I just
That's-
attached them, so I'm not sure, can I come
Are you
see?
across? Certainly, yes, absolutely. It looks like it may be taking it from the alleyway towards your property?
This is the property in question, and that's the side right there, and then this is where it begins, my alley. So it continues, this goes to this and continues all the way over. So this is
Okay.
effectively the same picture as this,
Okay, I got you.
with the standing water, and then this is as it goes farther down along the back of my yard with all of this standing water in the alley.
Okay, thanks.
I take care.
So does that mean, is this?
So it's standing water all the way from the driveway, all the way to the other side
I
of
think
my
that
driveway.
it is.
It looks different, though.
Yeah, the question here, we see the property in question here and the grill that's near the alley, which,
I'm calling that the drainage pit.
Seriously, do you want to see the picture? I'll show you the whole stretch
Well,
of it,
it's
and then-
difficult for us to keep it into record, so.
I know, it's kinda crazy,
So
but-
is that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So it's just
almost
covered,
the
it's
exact
full.
same view, one with water, one without.
Okay,
Yes.
understand, thank you.
Yes, I was gonna see if there was a point on here where it showed you.
And that helps clarify it. The
Yes.
photos were taken at different times.
Yes, because I wanted you to show, I took that
Okay.
last one just yesterday, because I noticed that the collector was not on the plan anywhere.
Yes, so
And I wanted you to see where that was.
I'm gonna label these, I'm gonna start at the top left and call it 1, go across to 2, then the bottom left is 3, and then the 4. So, okay, perfect. Any other questions for the remonstrator?
the 10-foot lilac that you mentioned, is that planted on your property?
I believe it is over the line.
But it's spread, you know, the base is on your property,
Right
the
along, there's quite a few things, there's ones that are right at the corner of my house. I mean, that property line goes very close to the corner of my home. And, but looking at the site, and I'm not disputing that, those are over the line. It would think that maybe that could be incorporated or salvaged, then try to tear that up, but they're not great, it's fine. I get if they want to replace that, that's their prerogative.
Okay.
I'm just concerned about what damage it might cause on our side if they try to do that. I don't know if that's anything within your purview to put a stipulation that anything on our end be made whole if it's damaged in the process of this installation. And the saw that we have at our front yard, which is gonna be the access from the street on the east side. We've just put in new sod all along there and purposely left part of it because we knew they would be coming in at some point to try to do that. But we prefer that, that be protected as well. It's tight. It's very tight.
As you said, cup of sugar out the window.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other remonstrators here tonight? If so, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
I am Jo Beth Ho at 240 Maple Street, which is just north of the property. And we are the ones.
South of the property.
South of the property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. O.
Corrected. Okay, and I think the Sandersons are the ones that really have the worst problem as far as the patio is concerned and the variances and all that. But when they built the house, it is takes over so much of the land that when you put the air conditioner there, we only have like a foot between our driveway and their air conditioner, which you don't want to not be neighborly and say, fine, come on over on the property and take your garbage cans out to the front. But it's the principle of the thing that is
Certainly.
aggravating. And we only knew through the Sandersons that they were building this patio. No one contacted us about it. And I think something like that, not being able to get from the back to the front on their own property, needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Any questions for Mrs. Ho?
Just a couple clarifying questions. You said you did not receive a notice
We received the notice.
or a letter?
The letter.
Okay.
But we had no idea of anything.
Okay.
Yes, July 3rd we received the notice. And, but we had no idea of the plans, only through talking to the Sandersons of what was going on. And we have no idea if he plans to do anything as far as any type of prettiness over on the other side of the house.
Yeah, so what we have in front of us, to be clear, is not that. So all the construction that we have, that we're looking at tonight, is on the north
It's
side
on
of the...
Sanderson
Yeah,
side of the
correct.
property.
Yeah. But I think your concern is certainly well noted and legitimate, that it certainly seems like you should be able to go from the front of your property to the back of your property without having to
Exactly.
cross into your neighbors. I think that's reasonable. Thank you, Mrs. Ho. Any other questions?
Just one follow-up
Sure.
question.
I keep interrupting you. I apologize.
No, that's fine. And this is really for Mr. DeLong, and it relates to the staff report that we're going to hear a little bit more about. But am I correct that when the house that, the petitioner's house was constructed, there were no variances necessary for the construction of that house?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay, so this would be the first variance then that's been requested with
Okay,
respect to that property?
I will, okay, that was a confusion too, because
Well, that's fine.
the house that was originally, that we were shown, that was to be built there, is not the house that was built. And somewhere along the line, they changed the structure of the house to where it doesn't have a nice porch and to fit in with the neighborhood. And we ended up with this house that's there now. And they just did not allow enough room. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other remonstrators here tonight for this particular petition? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Young, I don't have any additional need for you just yet, so hang on. With that, Wayne, can we have the staff report?
Yes, thank you. As we discussed in pieces earlier, we provided some of the staff reports, we provided again in totality here. Staff is supportive of the lot coverage as requested. The lot coverage, as you know, and certainly speaking for the benefit of the public as well, when staff is looking at these types of requests, we're analyzing the adjacent properties, the properties that are in proximity, and looking at what those properties enjoy. And so the lot coverage that is being requested is something that is similar and has been achieved by other properties in the area. However, focusing on the setback requirement, as mentioned earlier, there is part of the concern with the reduced setback is separation of structures for fire rating. And the building code speaks to that, allows for that when the structures are rated, dry-walled, half-hour, 1-hour fire rating. Facilitating this type of construction, it limits the opportunities of others to reduce their setbacks as well. But more importantly, the separation should be maintained at some standard. And that's where staff comes to the number of 5 feet, which is, by chance, the minimum setback in the village. But that does help facilitate the relationship between the other properties. And specifically, staff does not focus on it, but certainly is a great point, the movement of the waste receptacles from one side of the property to another.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Discussion amongst the group?
I agree as far as the removal of refuse, that it should be done on your own property. Even when we have signs that go up, we always make sure that they have 3 foot around the signs to make sure that there's adequate clearance without having to encroach on someone else's property to maintain that sign.
We've had this discussion with mowers and things. in the
Correct.
past.
And I think that the same thing applies when you're looking at a residential property, especially if there's already a problem there where they're having to use someone else's property to do this. Now they're gonna be deliberately building a patio that would permanently eliminate, potentially, the opportunity of using their own property to be able to take out the trash.
Yep. Thoughts or discussion about the pergola structure?
As I understand Wayne's concern, it is isolated to the vertical, it's with respect to the pergola only. It's the patio itself. If they removed the pergola entirely, would staff be in support of the aspect of the petition to modify or to, I guess, encroach on the setback or modify the setback?
Well, I mean, with this discussion regarding the movement of property, physical movement on the property from point A to point B, it's concerning that the physical improvements, the plantings, the other features would make that impossible. And so, staff would certainly happy to relook at what we've put here and provide a modified recommendation for you, but certainly staff does have concerns about what's been presented this evening. Staff does not typically evaluate vehicular movement of trash cans, but that's a great point.
Well, that's why we have public notice, and I think that's certainly a valid concern by the neighbors. I have problems with this petition as we see it right in front of us right now. And I'm not sure, with no offense to Mr. Young, I'm not sure he's equipped to answer all of our questions. I think specifically my concerns with this petition are, one is I'd like to see a more concrete plan on how we address the drainage. I do think staff raises an excellent point on the height of the pergola next to the proximity of the location of the neighboring property, as well as I do think there's a reasonable argument that there should be a mechanism or a way for one to move trash from your garage to your front yard without having to encroach on someone else's property. With that, I would probably recommend a continuation of this petition until we can get some more clarification on those. But that's certainly up for my fellow members to discuss.
I agree. I think each of those 3 items need to be addressed, and you'll have your turn. You ask for our comments right now. I think the drainage is a major issue. Anytime there's water that goes from one property to another, generally the receiving end is not happy, and they have every right not to be if it's caused by the other property owner. So I think that has to be addressed. I think that it's imperative that if someone has trash that they need to take and use their neighbor's property to do so, the neighbor should be inviting them to do that. Otherwise, they shouldn't be doing it at all. So that needs to be addressed as well. And the other part is the pergola. When you talk about bulk, this home is much larger than its 2 neighbors and many of the others as well. Add a pergola and some additional landscaping, I think the bulk from a visual standpoint increases significantly. And I think all of those should be addressed.
And as far as the pergola, it's not just the height, I think it's also the dimensions, like Wayne had brought up, as far as where the setback is. And I think if you wanted to keep a pergola on the north side of the house and you felt that that was necessary, you could always extend it so it's a little bit more horizontal.
Yeah, lineal.
Lineal, to be able to still have adequate coverage for seating without making it just a little 5-foot square. So I think that should be readdressed as well.
I think I can sense where this is going. Mr. Young, can you come back forward? So you have, unfortunately, you weren't made aware of the neighbors' concerns prior to this meeting, and so it's difficult for you to address them, and that's perfectly reasonable. What I think I'm understanding is what, as a group, and please correct me where I go wrong, I think we have a couple concerns, and I think you heard them. We'd like to see, what I would suggest, or what I think is going to happen, is that we're going to continue this motion until the next month. Or if you need more time, we can do that. We can extend it out farther than that if you'd like. But I think we'd like to see a more specific plan that, one, addresses the concerns that we've discussed, which is the drainage and how we get. And sure, you can come up with a creative way of doing that, but we'd like to see the specifics on how you're gonna do that. Two, I do think it's reasonable that if you look at the south side of the property, it's difficult to navigate a trash can down that way, and I think, I'd like to see a little more detail on how they could actually use their property and stay on their property to do that. And then I think the town has concerns, and I think many of my fellow board members do, about the pergola and its location and its size. So if you, feel free to comment, but I think that's what we'd like to continue this and discuss that more in detail next month.
Okay. The trash can thing, I think the reason that's happening is because his backyard is mud right now.
Yeah.
So if he wheels through the backyard, it's just mud, and it's taking mud everywhere. Once the patio's in and the lawn's in, he can easily go from there, go through the patio. If I make an opening in that front edge, he easily can go in and out, and that he'll be right to his front sidewalk and go out and take the trash.
I would be amenable to that solution, and that seems like a reasonable approach. I understand that, yeah, dragging those wheeled trash cans through the mud is not much fun, so that makes sense to me, but I'd like to see that specifically addressed. And anything I missed?
And I think he and I talked already about the pergola maybe being an issue, and he's completely okay with just eliminating that and getting rid of it if it's, you know, the best thing for what he needs to do.
Okay.
I see as one of the biggest hurdles is to get comfort on the drainage issue, and have your neighbor, make sure that your neighbor is also comfortable on the drainage issue.
Yeah, so, respect to people's time and property, feel free to reach out to the neighbors and work with them. I'd love to see everyone come back together with, this is what we think is the best solution for everybody, and if with that, it's an easy decision for us. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Young.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that docket number 2019-14-DSV be continued until the August meeting. What date is the meeting?
Question.
Should be August 13th.
To the August 13th meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is docket number 2019-15-DSV for 8218 East 550 South. Will the petitioner please come forward, state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, my name is Sam Pollock from 8218 East 550 South.
Mr. Pollock, could you please briefly describe what is in front of us tonight?
Yes, we are interested in turning one of the existing barns on our property into a rec area for use by our family and children, and adding a bathroom next to our pool that we've got in the back of the property. The issue is we have existing accessory roofed structures that exceed the size of the house. So it was a grandfathered in piece from when the town absorbed the Merle Boone County property in 2010, I believe. And so we need a variance in order to be able to move forward with permitting the project.
And the other one that's in front of us is the lot width to depth ratio.
Correct, yeah, we identified that with help from the town as we were submitting the initial variance. And it is kind of a flagpole lot. It's, 900 feet back, and then it kind of opens up into the actual property. It is a total of 7 acres with the 2 parcels.
Okay.
And so.
So my personal opinion, they may have more, I'm not worried about that one too much.
Okay.
I'm not gonna make you, I don't know how you'd fix it at this point, so we just wanna make sure that we have it on the record that this is in compliance now with this variance. So we'll deal with that one kind of separately, and I'm not terribly worried about it. Let's talk about the allowed roof accessory structure. Are you adding with this renovation, are you adding additional accessory structures?
We are not.
Or any additional roofed area?
We are not.
Okay, so you're just modifying the current, what is it currently, and it's one of the 2 larger barns that are on your property?
Correct.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, you mentioned it, but it's gonna turn into a pool house?
Essentially, yeah, we have a bathroom. When we eventually get around to redoing our kitchen, we're gonna bring some of the cabinets from the existing kitchen out. Just have a little kitchenette area in there. So if kids are playing ping pong, they can make popcorn and have sodas and juice in the
right.
the
So, but you don't have any intention of adding a bedroom and or like a rentable space or anything like that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And if you look at the plans, it's essentially one giant room with a bathroom.
Yep. Any questions for Mr. Paul?
Are you on city water and city sewer, or is this well and septic?
It is well and septic.
Okay, and did you check with Boone County to make sure that adding that extra bathroom you'll still have enough capacity with your,
Yes, we actually have a separate project going on right now to add a bedroom, so we're actually expanding the septic system, but we do have an approved permit from Boone County for the addition of the bathroom in the barn.
okay.
And so it's interesting, is the pool in at this point? This is gonna be.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we put that in last year.
Okay.
Is the pool kind of parallel to the structure that's nearest the house? There's a small square there, and it's got something written in there, but it's so tiny, I don't know if is
Yeah.
that the pool?
That is the pool, yeah. It runs
Okay.
alongside the front
Right there,
barn.
yeah.
And then we basically putting a slider on the back barn that opens out towards the pool area there.
Okay.
And so just to clarify, there are no modifications to the exterior of the structure that are occurring?
We are adding a slider to the
That may
exterior.
understand.
That's the only
Okay,
modification.
Yeah, but nothing, it's not getting larger.
Nope, we're not making it any larger. We're not adding any roof to it. It's just getting some natural light in.
Yeah, make it a little more accessible. Sure,
Yeah.
certainly. Any other questions?
I think that just you asked the question that I had, and just to make sure that it wasn't going to become residential in nature, that it wouldn't be
I
another.
knew you were gonna ask that question. I wanted to jump you to it. It's always a good question. Okay. Thank you. Are there any remonstrators here tonight? If so, you won't get invited to the pool party. Seeing none, I will entertain a staff report.
Thank you. Staff is supportive of the petition for two reasons, as previously discussed this evening. First and foremost is the parcel itself is existing. The lot dimensions are established. So this petition searches and seeks to move those items from a grandfathered status into a recognized nonconformity. As far as the accessory over primary, again, you're working with and addressing existing structures. The petitioners found this to be a challenge and is working through that. We appreciate them addressing this through this variance process. This will enable the property to move forward and be remodeled to the features that they desire, and do that in a legal manner, if you will. Again, staff is supportive of the petition as filed, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Wayne.
One question, Wayne, normally we have two different docket numbers, if one's design standard and the other's gonna be a non-conforming use, is that not true? Do we need to have two
Well,
numbers here?
So if this had filed for a LNCU certificate, then yes, you would see a different type of case number. But since they're searching for a process that's exceeding those limitations the LNCU offers, for example, with the LNCU, if the property is over 2/3 destroyed, it must come into compliance. Gaining this variance, if the board approves it this evening, would surpass that. So if there was some sort of calamity that was exceeding that 2/3 standard, the property could be restored back to the insured loss, if that's the case.
Okay, just making sure.
Certainly.
Good catch. Wayne, this is an interesting area. In fact, I think we just got through a petition not too long ago in this area. I guess my comment would be that, in what I read in the staff report and what I know from that particular area is this is, the accessory structures, it's consistent with the area, correct? It's what other neighbors enjoy and.
Correct. This board, of all boards, is extremely familiar with this stretch of 550 in between 875 and 800, both on the north and the south side. There have been multiple variances within the last 7 years supporting the existing development pattern in the area. There have been seldom a change out there, but when there was a new lot created, it sought to mirror the same characteristics, similar characteristics that other folks enjoy. So certainly, again, you're super familiar with this area.
Perfect. Thank you, Wayne. Any discussion amongst the group? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion without my glasses on, so. I move that docket number 2019-15-DSV Design Standards Variance Petition in order to provide for the improvement of an existing accessory structure which, one, exceeds the allowable roof accessory square footage, and 2, exists on a lot which exceeds the lot width to depth ratio of 3:1 in the rural, low-density, single-family residential zoning district, be approved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Have fun. Next item on our agenda is docket 2019-16-DSV for 760 West Sycamore Street. Will the petitioner please come forward and state your name and address for the record?
Stacy Hamilton, currently live at 810 Plum Street, but I own 760 West Sycamore.
Thank you, Mrs. Hamilton. What are you here for tonight?
I am here to request a rear setback variance on the northeast side of my property in order to accommodate a bedroom and bathroom addition that I'd like to add.
So as I looked at your property, it's an interesting shape, correct? It's not a traditional square. It's got a flag with the garage on the, let's see if I get my, that's the northwest corner. So the addition that you're proposing is on the northeast corner.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And could you tell us a little bit about that addition? So you said it was a bedroom and a bathroom. Do you have a square footage idea, or? I'm not gonna hold you to specifics,
Yeah.
but you can give me a round number.
Obviously, this is my contractor, Betsy Hicks. It's gonna be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath addition,
Okay. 2 stories?
2 stories.
Okay.
And I believe, yeah, the footprint's probably 550 square feet, so.
Okay, so for the record, it was 550 square feet is what we think. About.
Per the coverage, 2-story though.
Yeah, correct.
Right. 1,100, right.
Correct. You are going to consume 550-ish square feet of the lot.
Yes.
Understood. And we also got a conceptual rendering today, I believe, which I'll be honest with you, confused me a little bit.
Confused me doing it.
Well, I'm just trying to get my, am I in the backyard looking at this?
Yes, so,
Okay.
as you look at the, yes, so you would be between the garage and the home, if you look at it on the exhibit 2, which is this one. You'll see my garage is this one.
Yes.
And so you would be standing on that little brick walkway looking towards this, towards the east.
Correct.
And that's that somewhat conceptual rendering that I did. So,
Okay.
the building that is adjacent to my garage is another garage owned by a business in town.
So the building, so as I look at your garage, if I'm going to walk into your garage and I look to the left, that's also a garage owned by a local business?
JEA LLC, which is,
So it's not residential?
no, it's the Bentley dealership, owns that, cinder block storage building. And that's the section of the yard that my addition would be closest to, would be that garage.
Correct. And we don't anticipate any setback issues with that? Or is that the setback that we're,
That's the setback I'm asking for.
what is the rear yard on this?
The rear yard would be 20 feet,
Okay,
if you, that's what the ordinance would.
okay. Interesting, okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my head around this one.
That's okay.
It's an interesting house. Do you know any history about the house?
I do actually, I've been working on it for the last few weeks, so, it's an 1820s, log structure, actually 2 that were brought here sometime in the 30s, either 1937 or 39 by Paul Carter. And,
Of the Carter family here in town?
yeah, yeah. And, as I understand it, came from Hagerstown, Indiana, the 2 structures, and was erected here in the 30s, and, yeah, it's.
So we don't have any historical issues here, right? Correct? It's not a historical landmark or anything like that?
No.
Other than, it's kind of it's been an institution here in Zionsville for many years. So we
Right.
like that, but it's not
Right.
protected by the historical site, okay.
Right, which is the reason I wanted to buy it, because it's unique.
Okay, any questions for the petitioner?
The addition or that you're suggesting, this conceptual rendering, is it, what's it going to look like? I see you have vertical
Yes.
siding, it looks like.
So if you look at, I believe it's Exhibit 5, which are my color photos that I attached to each one of your, you'll see the cabin garage, one that's listed cabin garage, which is this picture right
Right.
here with the green roof.
Mm-hmm.
So this structure is going to be board and batten just like that, with white windows and a green tin roof to tie in with an already existing structure on the property.
Okay.
So it's important for me to have that continuity.
So you provided the sort of the handwritten drawing, but like,
That's
which is
not-
nice actually. But given that you've already retained a contractor to do the work, is there something that's more detailed in what you're providing? You understand what the square footage, or is it you don't have a more detailed conceptual plan at this point?
Renderings or elevations yet. Right,
She won't be picked up on the microphone, so you probably should say that.
we don't have elevations and renderings. I don't have an architect working on it at the moment. I wanted to find out what my variance might look like before I set in motion plans. But this is conceptually as accurate as I can make it. It will cause the least amount of damage to the log structure, which is my utmost concern, which is the integrity of that structure, and trying not to tie a different kind of addition across the entire back of it. So the historic integrity of that cabin is what I'm trying to maintain while still make it livable. The existing ceiling height and the upper level of that cabin is 6 feet 2 inches at the peak. So my son's 6'3" and a half. So
When I read your petition and saw upper level, I had no idea that there was actually an upper level in that.
It's, I
in that
think, a
building.
converted, maybe attic is what I would call it. So, yeah, so the bedroom, there are kind of not feasible bedrooms at the moment, which is why I would like to add them.
And so just a quick follow-up on that then. And so at this point, you're asking for the variance so you can
Yes.
understand what you can put there, but there is really no commitment or any sort of, any commitment that you're willing to make right now about the design of that, that addition?
I have a drawing that shows the interior of but I don't,
And I'm not asking you to make a commitment, I'm just trying to understand
Right.
where you
It will
stand in the
be-
process.
it will be a first-story master bedroom with French doors out, board and batten siding, side windows. This little structure right here is the smallest 3-foot kind of doorway that I can make in that great room, in the bigger room, and the least amount of logs that I can take out to create the hallway, as you might call it, to the addition. So, and that addition will be very similar to, be much more to scale than this. But that is my vision for it.
Okay.
And so, we're looking at, as I look at your rendering, which I think has gotten way too much criticism, I think it's just fabulous. As I look at it, on the left of the property, that is what the 10-foot yard setback we're talking about, right?
Yes, to this building, and that is the
That's the
concrete garage.
cement block garage next, okay.
And I spoke with Mr. Albers and explained what I was seeking, and he had no problem with it. He did confirm, he wanted me to confirm how far his building was off the property line, and it's 5 feet, so his building, and then 5 feet in is the property line. And so he said, so you would like to take yours to 10 feet? I said, yes. He said, so there'd be 15 feet between our buildings? And I said, yes. And he said, I have no problem with that. So,
And just one question. It's really more of a clarification to make sure that I understand that this is essentially a different structure that's going to be connected through a hall of some sort. And this isn't really a question for you at this point, it's more for Wayne or Darren, but that'll satisfy the requirements to be considered part of the primary structure, just a connection through that hallway. This won't somehow be considered an accessory structure.
No, the hard connection that is both conditioned space, heated and cooled, would facilitate this all being one attached structure. Staff would certainly encourage the width of that hallway to meet certainly some level of ADA. Necessarily, that's definitely not applicable to single-family residential construction, but certainly the age-in-place kind of thought process for any home these days is a top of mind. So certainly the width should be accommodating as possible.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mrs. Hamilton?
Just more of a question for Wayne, because we have conceptual and we know what the intent is, but part of your staff's report or staff's approval process is that it would be, that if we were to approve it, it would be basically substantial or almost the same as what was presented tonight with the site plan, and we really don't have a site plan. So is that going to be a problem?
Well, certainly, this evening the petitioners indicated, and certainly in their narrative, and we talk about that in the staff report in their Exhibit 5, they speak to their interest in maintaining the historical integrity of the property. So as mentioned tonight, this is a circa 1920s log cabin. It is listed as a notable structure in your 1986 Indiana Historical Sites and Structures Inventory that was conducted by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. So this is a notable contributing piece of fabric to Indiana history, and certainly the petitioner's interest this evening is to facilitate the life of the structure as well as to provide an addition to it that's complementary to the community as well as meeting her expectations. And certainly, to the listing of the materials in the record, if that's something that she's agreeable to this evening, I think is sufficient. Certainly mentioning terminology that we've used previously, substantial compliance with the submitted drawings, with the site plan that's been submitted, and the rendering. I know the rendering is labeled conceptual, but its relevance and its importance is rising as we sit here and discuss it. It is important. So I think certainly capturing it as part of the record is relevant.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to make sure substantial compliance with the submitted site plan. I just want to make sure that what we've had submitted is something that we can fall back on.
Yes.
Okay.
And one of the reasons for asking that question about where your comfort level is that if that drawing is something that may change significantly, then we'd want to probably understand that that's the case.
I don't have any plans to change it.
Okay.
That's my vision.
Yeah, the window sizes may be slightly different, or
Right, and it's not to scale
Sure.
wise
And the cabin garage in Exhibit 5, that is the materials that you plan on using on the exterior?
yes, board and batten.
Something similar, something aged that looks,
It will be board and batten. I believe it's going to be painted white, but it'll be board and batten.
Okay.
And all the windows on the cabin and this will be painted white, so it will coordinate with three buildings will coordinate together.
any other questions for petitioner? Seeing none, is there any remonstrators here tonight? If so, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, Wayne, can we have a more thorough staff report?
Thank you. Staff is supportive of the petition as filed. As indicated, this property is uniquely shaped and is adjoined by a structure to its north that is not residential in nature, but is accessory, if you will. It's a accessory building, but certainly is the primary structure on that lot. The requested setback is functioning, in essence, as a side yard setback, even though by definition this is its rear yard. But given the unique shape of the lot, staff could see this as a side yard, but certainly by definition it's a rear yard. In essence, in summary, staff is supportive of the petition as it's filed, and certainly is amenable and open to the other items that's been mentioned this evening, and certainly incorporate those into the record, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Wayne. I think I don't want to speak for the group. I think I'm comfortable with the 10-foot setback. I think that's reasonable and something we've dealt with a lot, and especially considering it's a garage. I think what I'm struggling with, and I'm not necessarily struggling with it, is just to make sure that, we want to make sure it looks aesthetically pleasing, and this may be our mechanism to do that. So if somebody wanted to try to document that into a motion, not sure how you would, but I'd appreciate it.
I'll give it a shot.
Or if there's any other discussion that needs to take place, I don't want to interrupt that.
I move that docket 2019-16-DSV design standard variance in order to provide for the construction of a two-story addition to the existing dwelling, which deviates from the required rear yard setback in the RV Residential Village zoning district for the property located at 760 West Sycamore Street, be approved with the understanding that the conceptual drawing that we were provided will essentially represent that exterior of that addition, that it will be board and battened and in much the same form of construction as the garage located on this piece of property as well. Be approved based on those conceptual drawing that was provided in the description I just gave.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second for that motion?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Can I just, point of order, sorry.
You may.
We didn't mention anything in here about lot coverage. Do we need to mention anything about lot coverage?
I don't think it comes close.
This lot is exceptionally large for the village.
Okay.
Correct, that's correct.
We're fine.
Okay, so I think we're covered on lot coverage. So with that, I think we need to vote on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries. Good luck with your project.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed to the next petition, I'd failed to send you a copy on an email. I'd sent it to Wayne. I'm going to... Oh, okay, you are aware.
Yes, I am aware. Yep. So you're going to recuse yourself from this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think probably what's appropriate is if you were to step outside,
I will do that.
and then...
Something afterwards? Are we doing?
You need to come back.
And prior to that, we are short one member. Now we have three members. So if we aren't in agreement, is it automatically
I
continued?
believe your rules provide automatically continue.
I believe that is, as I understand them as well. Okay, perfect. With that, the next item on our agenda is docket 2019-17-DSV for 6724 Johns Station. Will the petitioner please come forward, state your name and address for the record?
My name is Tyler Herman. I'm with Pools of Fun, who is the anticipated contractor for the project hired. Our business address is 3891 Clarks Creek Road in Plainfield.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Can you please describe the project that's in front of us?
Yeah, we are asking for a reduction in the side yard setback for the 6724 John Station Road for Chris and Sarah Moore for the purpose of adding a swimming pool. We're asking for a 5-foot side setback to be reduced by 2 feet to a 3-foot side reduction on the property line.
Thank you. This is an unusual property in that it sits on the corner and it's difficult to understand what the backyard is and what the side yard is. And
Yep.
but just so we're all orientated the correct way, this the pool that's being proposed is kind of next to or the driveway.
Next to the garage, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It's forward from the driveway, but
Yes.
on the same side. Yeah,
Same
You
size.
could argue that it's a side yard, rear yard from the corner line.
If you looked at it, I thought it was the backyard.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then let's discuss the side yard setback, just so I have that clear. So it's currently 5 feet and you're suggesting 3 feet?
That's what we're asking for, correct?
Where is, inside of that 3 feet, how far away will the water be from the property edge?
Water will be, I believe there's a 2-foot concrete deck, so that would make the water 5 feet from.
Okay, so the water will be at the setback, what currently is the setback, and then you'll have a 2-foot
Correct.
sort of concrete
Yeah,
patio
the
deck.
drawing that I'm referencing is not, it is in scale, but that measurement is not listed, but I believe that's what it is, 2 foot on the back.
It's 2 feet
Yeah.
on the, 2 feet where the setback would be, and then 4 feet between the pool and the garage.
2 feet of concrete between the water and the required yard set, the asked for setback, 4 feet from the house.
Perfect.
Yeah. We could not move it closer to the house. There's a service door on the side of that garage there. And with
Opens
kids-
3 feet and you can't,
Right, yeah, you'd come out that door and you'd have a hard stop of water in front of you, so that's what we decided 4 seemed like a comfortable distance. And normally a pool deck that we would pour would be at least a 3-foot ribbon, so we've backed this down to 2, to try and ask for as little as possible.
so really when you look at that, when you think about that 2 foot on the setback, it's not really for sunbathing or anything like that.
Structural purposes. for
Yeah,
the
it's,
pool.
get around and sweep the pool and things like that, but there's not gonna be a whole lot of activity on that particular
Yep.
deck.
No, all the activity goes back up towards the front of the house and then into the house. Like the rest of the pool deck comes that way and comes back in, away from where the setback would be.
For the record, the discussion was that the activity would be in another area. Any questions for the petitioner?
Just, again, looking at the aerial, it looks like the lot that's immediately next door is vacant. It hasn't been built upon yet.
That's correct.
Okay.
And Julie, as I looked at that, this, it's just, you've been to Stonegate, it's unusual. So as I drove through it, it's aesthetically pleasing, it's just unusual, interesting lots. I anticipate, what I would describe is this pool is gonna be in the neighbor's backyard as well. The front of the property, that if they build a house on that, would be on John's station. And so I had a concern there that it might be someone's front yard, but that's not, I don't think that'd be the case at all.
One of the other things from the staff report mentioned that worth bringing up, because it will probably come up in conversation, was that Stonegate HOA would be a variable in this. We do have their written consent for the plan as drawn. They have referenced back that they will not give full consent until the variance is approved, so
Yeah.
we're bouncing back.
So to be clear on that, we don't trump your homeowners association,
Totally
but
understand.
we're the town, and so we'll probably, if it's okay by them,
Yep.
there you go.
Because of the very narrow setback then too, this is gonna be like an automatic cover on the pool rather than having a fenced yard around it.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, below grade.
Will you come forward? It's okay, I won't bite.
It's an undermount cover that's flush with the concrete, nothing sitting up on top of
Okay.
the house, and no fence would be required by code.
Okay.
Okay, well, now you don't need to come forward. I made you walk, I apologize.
I needed a few more steps.
There you go.
So there isn't a plan to put up a privacy fence or a wrought iron fence or?
Not that I'm aware of at this time. There were some.
Oh, right.
Coming back, more steps.
Okay.
We discussed the opportunity of landscaping from a visual barrier, just for privacy purposes, but no plans for an actual privacy fence or anything
Can
like
you
that.
state your name and address?
Yes, so I'm Sarah Moore. I live at 6724 John Station.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
So there are plans, they have not been finalized depending on the approvals or not approvals today, but yes, there is landscaping plans tentatively in place to do 6-foot privacy panels, arborvitae trees to separate the 2 lots. That will essentially be side by side to a proposed build one day.
The homeowners association does allow privacy fence, do they?
They do.
They do? Okay.
You see it pretty consistently throughout the neighborhood.
And the lot adjacent there is a buildable lot, it's just not
Correct,
sold, is that right?
correct. Well, I guess I should say it has sold, and the same people have owned it for 15 years is my understanding, just haven't chosen to build yet.
And they were noticed on this, so if they had any kind of remonstrance, they'd have an opportunity to voice their opinion now.
Any other questions for the petitioners? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Are there any remonstrators here tonight? If so, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none. Wayne, can we have the staff report?
Certainly, staff is supportive of the petition as it's been filed, and certainly for the reasons mentioned earlier this evening. From time to time, you do have these types of pool requests in front of you, and staff has 2 main points that it focuses on. First and foremost, what are the neighbors' interests and concerns, and discussing those this evening, as well as the homeowner association. And the second item that we like to discuss is the location of the water's edge versus the setback. The pool itself, the body of water, will meet the minimum setback. The activity area where any sort of noise or activity would occur would again meet the setback. And we secondarily focus on the width of the apron that surrounds the pool. At 2 feet, it's not designed to function more than just ingress and egress from the water or any other types of emergency purposes and maintenance of the pool. It would not be a recreational type of area for the mitigating potential for disturbances in the future to adjoiners. Again, staff is supportive of the petition as filed, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Wayne. Any questions for the staff? Any discussion amongst the group? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Steve? Me? Okay.
It's your turn.
I move that docket number 2019-17-DSV Design Standards variance to provide for the addition of a swimming pool which deviates from the required side yard setback in the rural low-density single-family and two-family residential zoning district for the property located at 6724 John Station be approved as filed, as recommended by staff.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Mundy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Enjoy your pool.
Those little boys will be happy. Like, Mommy, why are we here? Like, do you want a pool or not?
There's work to go to the pool. Looking at the agenda, the next item, if you see Mr. Krempa, will you send him back in here? The next item on our agenda is other matters to be considered. Wayne, any updates for us?
Certainly, the first item is the 2019 BZA update. We would look to continue to postpone that, if you will, to another evening when you have all 5 of your members here this evening. Addressing the next matter, 46 DSV, we're awaiting information on the recordation of those commitments. We had received an update from the petitioner's agent, Zionsville Underground 34 SE. We did receive an update, and we have a more recent version of the plan of operation in-house now currently for review. 31 SE, 32 DSV, those commitments have been recorded, as well as the right to farm. And the final 2 items, 19 DSV and 2017 11 DSV, we do not have any information currently, and we keep speaking to the Fisher Homes project. That project itself is still experiencing some level of completion of its infrastructure. It still struggles towards completion, and I do not believe Fisher Homes is in the gears anymore as a potential purchaser.
Thank you, Wayne. I think Wayne and I have discussed, and I'll share with the group, that I think the training provided by Mr. Chad, I think, is important, and I think we should all be here for it. So we're going to kind of keep kicking that can down the road until we're all present. With that, and no further matters to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.